You know, sometimes I look at the state of the entertainment industry and think to myself, there is no way that this could possibly get any worse. I think that we have reached a sub level of creative bankruptcy where it is impossible to sink any lower, and that the only way to go from here is up. I welcome the day when this will actually be the case, but the more I see, the more I begin to think that Hollywood will not be able to think creatively again in my lifetime, let alone within the next 5 years. If the ruination of every one of their properties is not going to stop them, if their constant charge into the culture wars is not enough, and if the mountain of debt that they find themselves under is not enough to do them in, then I think it's safe to say that they have the lifespan of a creative cockroach. I think that I have lost all ability to comprehend anything that Disney does from this point going forward. As it stands, they have had a heck of a year so far. From the lackluster performance of Little Mermaid and their Disney Plus shows to the absolute bomb that was The Dial of Destiny, and the PR nightmare that has been Snow White, which has gone so far as to delay the release of the film. I honestly don't think we need to hate on this movie anymore, guys. Rachel Zegler is doing a good enough job destroying it for us. But no, apparently, like Mike Tyson after one too many hits, they just don't know when to quit. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Bambi. If I thought that the set photos of Snow White were some type of joke, I'm pretty sure that the announcement of this movie is a fever dream. Heck, maybe it is. I was sick last week, so I might have dreamed up the whole thing. But no, I looked into the sources, and it appears that this movie is legit. The next film to be yanked out of the mortuary, dusted off, and put in ugly new clothes is the 1942 film Bambi. I guess Disney decided that they weren't going to make any money off of live-action films with people and decided to try their luck with CGI animals instead. But that's not all. Guess what, guys? They have decided to employ their trademark money-making tactic and update Bambi for a modern audience. What even needs updating about a bunch of animals in the forest? I have no idea, but according to the New York Post, Disney plans to give Bambi a modern twist, possibly downplaying the tragic death of the deer's mother. How this is an example of modernity, I'm still trying to understand. The last time I checked, the death of a parent is neither an old-fashioned nor modern concept, so how it applies here, I have no idea. The movie's writer Lindsay Anderson Beer, in a recent interview with Collider, suggested that the death of Bambi's mother would be too upsetting for modern kids. Death is not supposed to be a palatable thing, Miss Beer. It never has been, it never will be. And the original movie never portrayed the death of Bambi's mother in an exploitative manner. Although given Disney's recent penchant to feminize everything, they will likely make Bambi's father the dead one and have his mother be the one to lead him to safety. Just because they can. And I think that's been the source of many of Disney's problems lately. They have simply been doing things just because they can. Ah well, at least they are choosing to lose money, I suppose. But it does mean that they are 99.9% likely to make as much of a mess of this film as they have done for nearly every single one of their other live-action products. God knows there isn't a description for this movie yet, much less a trailer, but let's talk about the Bambi that we already know and that a lot of us still love. Prior to the Disney movie, Bambi was a 1923 Austrian coming-of-age novel written by Felix Salten and originally published in Berlin. The novel traces the life of Bambi, a male roe deer, from his birth through childhood, the loss of his mother, the finding of a mate, the lessons he learns from his father, and the experience he gains about the dangers posed by human hunters in the forest. It is also, in its most complete translation, seen as a parable of the dangers and persecution faced by Jews in Europe. Bambi is a roe deer, born in a thicket in late spring one year. Over the course of the summer, his mother teaches him about the various inhabitants of the forest and the ways deer live. When she feels he is old enough, she takes him to the meadow, which he learns is a wonderful but also dangerous place, as it leaves the deer exposed and in the open. After some initial fear over his mother's caution, Bambi enjoys the experience. On a subsequent trip, Bambi meets his aunt Ina and her twin fawns Faline and Gobo. They quickly become friends and share what they have learned about the forest. While they are playing, they encounter princes, male deer, for the first time. After the stags leave, the fawns learn that those were their fathers, but that the fathers rarely stay with or speak to the females and the young. As Bambi grows, his mother begins to leave him alone. While searching for her one day, Bambi has his first encounter with he, the animal's term for humans, which terrifies him. The man raises a firearm and aims at him. Bambi flees at top speed, joined by his mother. After he is scolded by a stag for crying for his mother, Bambi gets used to being alone at times. He later learns the stag is called the Old Prince, the oldest and largest stag in the forest, who is known for his cunning and aloof nature. During the winter, Bambi meets Marina, a young doe, Netla, an old doe who could no longer bear young, and two princes, Rono and Karis. Midwinter, hunters enter the forest, killing many animals, including Bambi's mother. Gobo also disappears and is presumed dead. After this, the novel skips ahead a year, noting that Bambi, now a young adult, was cared for by Netla, and that when he got his first set of antlers, he was abused and harassed by the other males. It is summer, and Bambi is now sporting his second set of antlers. He is reunited with his cousin Faline. After he battles and defeats first Karis, then Rono, Bambi and Faline fall in love with each other. They spend a great deal of time together. During this time, the old prince saves Bambi's life when he nearly runs towards a hunter imitating a doe's call. This teaches the young buck to be cautious about blindly trusting any deer's call. During the summer, Gobo returns to the forest, having been raised by a man who found him collapsed in the snow during the hunt where Bambi's mother was killed. While his mother and Marina welcome him back and celebrate him as a friend of man, the old prince and Bambi pity him. Marina becomes his mate, and several weeks later, Gobo is killed when he approaches a hunter in the meadow, falsely believing the halter he wore would keep him safe from all men. As Bambi continues to age, he begins spending most of his time alone, including avoiding Faline, though he still loves her in a melancholic way. Several times he meets with the old prince, who teaches him about snares, shows him how to free other animals from one, and encourages him not to use trails to avoid the traps of men. When Bambi is later shot by a hunter, the prince shows him how to walk in circles to confuse the man and his dogs until the bleeding stops, then takes him to a safe place to recover. They remain together until Bambi is strong enough to leave the safe haven again. When Bambi has grown gray and is old, the old prince shows him that men are not all powerful by showing him the dead body of a man who was shot and killed by another man. When Bambi confirms that he now understands that he is not all powerful and that there is another over all creatures, the stag tells him that he has always loved him and calls him my son before leaving. The original storyline is more of a coming-of-age story than anything else, a parable highlighting Bambi discovering his own fallible nature and that there are humans who are fallible as well. There also seems to be a religious aspect to the story, with the incorporation of one called Another. It's rather obvious that this will not be incorporated into this new remake for fear of people being offended by a religious aspect in a Disney story, even if it is just an allegory. The old prince has a much greater role in the novel than he did in the movie, and I don't think that I am remiss in saying that it's possible that this role will be cut down even further. Of course, I could be wrong, but given Disney's recent penchant for all things girl power, the role of the deer who ends up bringing Bambi to a new life could just as easily be a female. However, until an actual trailer releases, this is all just speculation. Unfortunately, like many of the live-action movies that have come before it out of Disney, at best this movie is going to be a soulless remake, forgettable in a few years due to the release of other films, or it will be one final footnote in the very long essay of why Disney has become a creatively bankrupt institution. The only twist these days is that Disney has become obsessed with the idea of modernization and has somehow confused that with creativity. It's not new, it's not fresh, it's not exciting, it's actually just depressing, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this new Bambi remake down in the comments section. Until next time, everyone.